the work environment was. I missed my previous one because they were very intrusive.
So growing up, I've also, throughout my career journey, one key thing has always been to understand that
there is a very limitation for growth. If you are a young person
and stuff, it's in the mountains somewhere. So we're having a nice conversation.
My name is Cassius. I've studied at Northwest University. I've studied a lot of things at NW, but I'm currently working for the Department of Science and Innovation in a research project that is hosted by Northwest University at Posh campus. Yeah, so my name is Cassius. Yeah, I don't want to be too much brief, but my name is Cassius.
Okay, great. Let's go through to Daniel. Obviously, you've spoken already, but just give us an introduction of who you are, what you do, and where you're based.
All right, so my name is Daniel. I work at Lombard Insurance with Peter, and I think Lelo as well, if I'm not mistaken. Lelo, is that you? Okay, anyway, yeah, so fortunately enough, we went to the same. Hey, so I'm seeing a familiar face as well. Another familiar face. Yeah, so we worked together, Lelo and Peter. Went to the same university as Peter. And I'm a data management developer at Lombard Insurance. Yeah, so that's basically me.
Okay. Let's have Tawang introduce yourself. Tawang, just tell us your name, what you do, and where you're based.
Age. I thought this is alphabetical. What's happening?
Nah, I saw your name first.
Hey guys, Tawang here. I'm based in Cape Town. I'm a business analyst for investments. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay, let's have Lelo next.
Did you say Lelo?
Yes.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Lelo. Like Daniel and Peter said, I work with them at Lombard Insurance. I'm a marketing I'm a marketer. I studied marketing, and my passion lies in entrepreneurship. So I also own a few businesses. Oh, and I'm based in Joburg, but I'm currently visiting my folks in Kimberley in the Northern Cape.
Okay, great.
Interprovincial traveling.
Let's have Nobuhle next.
Hi everybody. My name is Nobuhle. I also went to NW. I am a project manager and business strategist. I'm the founder of Profound Business Management as well as a director for Mahajani Partners Project.
Great. I see Bessel. Obviously, I want to stick to the alphabetical order. Bessel, can you switch on your mic? Let's see if everything's working on your side. I'm assuming it's still setting up. Let's go to Tebogo.
Hi everyone, Tebogo here, Sfaneke Kadiaka, and I'm based in the East Strand of Gauteng. I work for an FMCG company looking after some SADC countries, and that's me.
All right, great. I'm assuming Bethel is still trying to set himself up. But in the interim, I think most of you have told you about the topic at hand. Today, we're going to be talking about entanglement. I'm joking. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic about money. But I think the good thing about this topic is that it's not limited to any singular aspect. It's quite a diverse and big, broad term. New Kuzaka, whatever you want to call it, the different terms. And I want to speak about it in context of different aspects. As you are aware, all of us are Black here. We all are working people also, entrepreneurs or employees to some capacity. And obviously, this aspect of money as young Black people is obviously an important topic to have. Obviously, I see Bethel is now set up. can you just switch on your mic, give everyone an introduction of who you are, what you do, and where you're based?
Thanks, Peter. Hi, guys. Once more, my name is Betuel. I'm based here in the Val. I'm working at Gauteng Department of Social Development. I'm a social work by profession. I'm the activist in my own right. Thanks, Peter, for having me here once more.
No problem at all. So I think we can just kick off with the discussion. First of all, I just want to make sure, does anyone have any questions before we start? So I've covered all the groundwork. That seems like a no. Okay, great. So obviously, as you all are aware, the topic is about money. Now, obviously, money can be described in different ways. It's applicable to different ways. And obviously, I want to make sure that this topic is not limited to one thing. But maybe to kick off the discussion, obviously, we are currently in a lockdown because of a pandemic. The pandemic is obviously affecting us in, most importantly, financially. And obviously, I don't want to start the topic on a very high end of discussing. I see Cassius has brought stock for the rest of the discussion. Okay.
Cassius still has alcohol. He still has alcohol. Yeah.
He's stocked up. Eh? This is also one of the points that you have to mention, in terms of money. He's stocked up.
But just to kick off the discussion, let's start with the aspect of the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown. I want to go through everyone and understand your context of how you understand the pandemic and how it impacts you financially. Obviously, I'll try to avoid having it be a discussion in terms of your personal figures or what your personal life, but I just want to have a broad discussion about how exactly you feel about the issue about the pandemic and how it's affecting your pocket. Obviously, this is a broad conversation, so I don't want to limit it to one particular thing. And we're going to go through different other areas and we discuss money, obviously. So obviously, I'm just going to pick people randomly. Obviously, we allow people to interject. Just make sure you use the Zoom icons to interrupt or interject as we go along. As you know, we are live streaming, but also we are recording this discussion instead of going to the podcast. Let me start with Thabang. You are based in Cape Town, which was initially the most affected province at once. How exactly has the pandemic affected you on a personal capacity in your life and in terms of money? Let's start there.
Hey, Cape Town. We used to be Wuhan. I don't know if there was a ceremony to transfer that title to Josie. So I don't know about that. For us, man, it's been hectic in a sense of like we went to full lockdown when there was a rise of infections and stuff. But in terms of money, most companies kept on operating, except the retail sector. That's where they were hit the most because clothing stores and stuff, they had to shut down. And so that thing, you also sense it from people that you know, like your friends or people that they know. Because I read recently that in South Africa, 3 million people lost their jobs. That's a staggering figure, man. 3 million, that's quite a lot. So yeah, but fortunately from our side, we are not affected much because we were able to work from home. So I think that works quite well. But you also have to feel for people who lost their jobs. So man, you couldn't do things that you normally used to do because you always have to think too much about where you spend your money. So that's the most important thing, because you never know if you want to get salary cuts or if you might also lose your job. So that's something that you need to consider, the emergency funds, are they proper? If you need to delay some things that you wanted to do, road trips and stuff. So that's how we got affected. You had to adjust to the new norm because you don't know how it's going to end. You don't know how your income stream is going to keep working for you. So yeah, it's just one of those, just having to adjust to the new norm and being considerate of other people, because you can't just turn up while other people are not doing as well. So it was stressful for everyone.
Lelo, in your capacity, what's been your experience so far?
So I think very similar to Tabang, because we've been able to work from home and no one at the organization that we work for has lost their jobs. So financially, not much change in the aspect of income that comes in on a monthly basis. But I have I have witnessed a few new spending habits that I attribute to the pandemic. I think, yeah, my budget has, I've had to readjust a couple of things because of the pandemic. I spend a lot more on certain things than I did before. But yeah,
Add to card functionality.
But yeah, not a lot has changed in terms of income and impact, because my folks are also earning as they did. So nothing too hectic on my end.
Okay. Precious, on your side, obviously you are based in the Northwest. What is your experience so far financially? How is your side of the world being impacted? Switch on your mic.
Is it fine now?
It's fine.
Okay. Personally, I've not. I would say that the lockdown has not affected me negatively, because I've been working from home, but then with the full salary, so it has not affected me in that sense. But I've been spending quite a lot as opposed to when I'm on campus, because I don't know, but I've been spending quite a lot as opposed to when I'm on campus, because when I'm at campus, I don't spend quite a lot, just a lunch. But when I'm here at home, I think when it comes to grocery, I've been spending quite a lot when I'm here at home, because maybe it's because I eat a lot, hence I gain this weight. Peter, you know me who I am. So like now, but generally, yeah, everything has been good. But holistically, yeah, I also sympathize with those people who lost their job, and now I think it's a question of maybe the government must try to strike the balance between opening economy and also working on prevention measures. But honestly speaking, some of the people, especially in retails, they're not making money, so they're forced to close. So it does have the dire impacts on other people. But I would say I'm indirectly impacted, but for now, personally, I'm still fine. Yes.
Good. I mean, one of the part of this extended discussion was obviously the discussion about life versus the economy, and that's obviously going to be something we have to discuss as well. But let's just get through the last few people. Nobutle, on your side, I mean, how has this pandemic affected you financially, most importantly?
Look, it's been quite a challenge, especially for entrepreneurs. I know so I did mention that I was doing business strategy and project management, but okay, that's been fine. I've lost a few clients, I've got a few as well, so there's just been a balance in between, and we're able to survive. But the hardest knock for us is that we've run a family restaurant for longer than I've been alive. And the impact has hit us so hard that we're still trying to see if we can still sustain and open after this thing is over. So in that regard, it's hit me on one side. On the other side, we've been able to benefit. Personally, I know people that have lost their jobs, so it's been quite a huge blow. But yeah, we're surviving. We're still able to make ends meet. I'm just really glad. Yesterday, I was just speaking to somebody and saying, I almost made a financial decision that would have probably suffocated all of my businesses, but fortunately, I didn't make that decision. So yeah, we're surviving for now.
First of all, I know you work in the public sector, so obviously you're obviously different from people working in the corporate side. In the public sector, how are you affected in your space, also financially?
I don't know why you are saying obviously as if, because it gives certainty to say what if. Yeah, no. Cassius, I see you are indulging, Force. You are very well. Anyway, Peter, as you know, in public sector, we have been receiving our salaries, full salaries, even during the lockdown. Many professionals or people who are working for government receiving their income, even if they are not actually working from home. Like my colleagues there who are in the private sector, they are working at home. But it's a different situation in the public sector. I don't want to dwell on that before I get attacked, because I once had this discussion whether is it fair for the public servants to get their full salaries even though they are not working, you understand? And it renders people useless, you understand? Because if you get a salary, you get a salary of the work done that you have done. But it's a topic for another day. On my side, I'm not affected, Peter. My financial situation has been the same. Without lockdown, before lockdown, it have been the same, my brother.
Okay, and then Tebogo, obviously, last week, your experience so far.
First of all, I think. Okay, wait. Let me just look at this. Okay, you went through pretty much everyone, but I think we are very blessed, first and foremost, to be in the situation that we are in during this time, whereby yes, we may see it, or we may see the impact and feeling it, yes, but not to the extent as other people would. So I will just mention maybe two of my experiences. So I'm also in the restaurant industry, not a participant, but within the FMCG, that's what we also, we supply the restaurant industry. And that has been crazy in terms of the number of restaurants that have closed down, as well as the number of lodges, because tourism is also on the low. No one is moving around and all the rest. But also closer to home would be, so I still live with my parents, but there's back rooms whereby there's a lady who actually worked at the airport. And she's now lost her job. And she lost her job just after getting her kid from KZN, because the kid was growing up in KZN. She came up to find some work. And just as things were starting to look up, and then COVID hit, she's now back at home. Well, she's unemployed and just trying to make means. And it's not easy because the job opportunities, or if I can put it as your conventional or your general job opportunities, aren't as available as they would be pre-COVID, right? But also on the flip side, what I have noticed is from a hood perspective, the if I can still call it restaurants, those are booming. From a hood perspective, which I think is also a good thing. Wherever there is darkness, the light will shine bright, I guess. Therefore, those are the silver linings in which I am foreseeing. But also, I think this opens up an opportunity on how we can actually use whatever means of either monetary or resources that we have to see how we can better ourselves and how we can actually move to the next level in terms of financial security. Because I think if there's one thing that we have learned is, are you financially secure? You know, and I don't know, but I know I can't answer that question at this moment. However, but yeah, that's what I've been able to observe as well as experience on one side.
Okay. Now, I think this gives subway to the discussion about life versus the economy. And I think no one can disagree that this pandemic has affected a lot of poor people. And obviously, by default of South Africa, most poor people are going to be, by default, be Black in majority. And this comes the discussion about life or the economy. And obviously, this has been a continuous issue that is still being discussed, and obviously the government still has to comprehend with this issue. Now, I obviously want to see what exactly, before we go into other issues, because obviously I don't want to dwell on COVID-19, but I just want to understand, in your own personal capacity, what is your take on the whole issue between balancing life and also the ability to ensure that we still have a sustainable growing economy, which was already impacted by historic economic lack of growth. Let's just go through everyone. Let me start with Nobutle. Obviously, you are an entrepreneur. If you were in a different type of industry as an entrepreneur, you would be impacted differently. With the continuous issue of the pandemic, cases are increasing, lockdown doesn't seem to be reversed. Do you feel that the debate should be warranted between life and the economy? And what's your take on that? Just switch on your mic.
I'm sorry. So, look, for me, it's always been as much as we are governed, as much as the responsibility lies with the people that govern us. I think the issue isn't how we're governed, right? It isn't how, and I'm speaking about the spreading. I feel that we would have still been able to pick up the economy if the ignorance was not as high as it is.
Yes, va.
So you deal with a population who maybe 30% understands and takes the pandemic seriously, and you've got a 70% that still thinks life is as it is and should continue. I mean, look at the alcohol. I'll speak about the alcohol. You open sales and exactly what you've been avoiding and telling people about happens, right? So it's not a matter, as much as we can try to level against life and economy. Yes, we're saying lives are more important than making money. But now you've got people that are still standing on the side and are saying, okay, I'm sitting in my house. My job doesn't allow me to sit in front of a laptop. I need to make a living, right? I need to go stand in the street, and then I'm prone to disease. I'm prone to this thing that's coming to me. So you're fighting. A lot of people are saying that people that understand the pandemic and the seriousness are people that are privileged, or people that are still able to say, I've got my laptop, I'm still able to work. But then what happens with people who say, do I die out of hunger or do I die from COVID? Now, the mentality for people is saying, I'd rather get COVID and hopefully recover than not being able to feed myself and my kids. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I don't think the battle is the fact that the government is fighting, or the people that are ruling us are fighting between life and economy. It's a matter of the people and what works for the people. As much as we can say, let's put people under lockdown, let's get people in the houses. For me, everybody has that personal thing of saying, I can still lock myself in, I can still work from wherever I am, I can still make the money. But there's somebody who's saying, I'd rather get into that full-pack taxi because at the end of the day, I need to feed myself. So I don't think it's a thin line between life and economy. It's a personal choice. And unfortunately, even if it's a personal choice, other people are affected. I mean, I get annoyed at the fact that sometimes you sitting at home and somebody else is not, it puts you at risks. But thinking beyond that, I think we need to condition ourselves to always think about the next person, basically.
Yeah.
Saban, in your view, do you differ? Do you agree? What's your take on the whole issue between a country where a lot of people don't have the privilege of working at home with Wi-Fi, yet alone having a laptop? What's your take between people saying, let's go back to work, all of us, we need the economy more than we need to worry about a virus? What's your take on that?
From my side, I share the same sentiment as Nobushare. At the end of the day, it's still a personal decision. Because, like, to understand this better, you have to put yourself in the shoes of someone who doesn't have the sort of work that you do, like who has to like go outside, has to catch a taxi that is packed and do that. Because sometimes we tend to speak from a position of privilege, and that's a dangerous mentality to be in, you know. So I think it is a personal choice, but we just have to do whatever we can to ensure that we are safe. So even if I still have to go out at the end of the day, like to get to my work, I just need to ensure that I do keep safe. I do follow the restrictions, the 6 feet apart thing, and I just maintain the social distancing. Because I don't know like which worse, like dying from COVID or from hunger. Like it's really difficult question to answer because we all battling different scenarios. You don't know what the other person is going through. So it is important before you speak that you do check your privilege.
I see Daniel raise his hand. Obviously, I think he wants to.
Yeah, so I just want to say that, like the times that we're in, this is not something that everybody knows the answer to. So I think we're literally throwing our eggs into like a massive basket, trying to pick the right one more that we're doing. So because I remember I was attending the sim feedback meeting where like we were getting addressed, and then there was a comment passed on saying that the president does not know the impact that like locking down the country has on small businesses because he's used to having like big businesses because he's making money from his own entrepreneurship that he has on the side. And I think for me to, everybody has their own opinion on the decision made currently just to literally try and balance the economy and the lives of people. And I think, I don't feel like there's actually a right way or the right thing to do. But I think what we're trying to understand is, are we moving in the right direction? But the problem is, even if we say we're moving forward, is it the right direction or is it the wrong direction? Because now if you think of opening the economy, like restaurants now are supposed to operate, but you're not supposed to have social visits to your family members. But at the end of the day, you can actually go to a restaurant, sit down, and restaurants are actually for social purposes. You go to a restaurant for social purposes. I mean, we could probably have had this meeting in a restaurant somewhere, and it would have been permitted. And then you understand, like if they close down restaurants, I mean, probably more people have lost their jobs continuing forward. So I just feel like there's so many things that we can say they're doing right, and then so many things that we can say they're doing wrong. And I feel like we must just try and understand that nobody has the right answers right now. So whatever we do, we're trying to mitigate the worst case scenario right now.
Okay. Obviously, I see Taboko raise his hand. I think after Taboko, I'll allow one more person on this issue about COVID. Then we can go to other issues.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to agree with Nobushe and Daniel. It's tough. It is tough. There is no balance because there's this peak that we need to reach, and we can't keep the economy locked down till such a time, because then that's further going to eradicate the economy. Therefore, it's the best immune system must win. That's my view on this, guys. The best immune system must win, but still, and with saying that, keeping the social distancing and doing what needs to be done to protect oneself and to also protect others. Other than that, may the best immune system win.
Cassius, I see you raised your hand. I'm assuming you have a strong immune system, and your opinion also. Or do you disagree?
No, Peter, I would say, economically speaking, I think it is very much unsustainable to keep the hard lockdown because I think the government has to come up with a way to strike the balance between resuming operations and also coming up with the prevention measures, because honestly speaking, just if you can recall, just before the lockdown, the country was already on recession. So if now we are going to keep the hard lockdown, it simply means that we are going to move from recession to depression. And when we are in a depression, it simply means that we are going to experience the massive job losses, and that's what we don't need that, because currently we have the high unemployment rate in this country. So we cannot. So there has to be equilibrium between the opening the economy and also coming up with the prevention measures. And I just want to share this scenario. There is this occupation, and there are people that they're fighting to say no, they don't want to work because of the reason that they mentioned, to say because we don't want to work because of 1, 2, or 3. But I can tell you, some of the people, we have to be honest, they don't contact COVID at the workplace. Most of the people have been having parties, they've been hosting all those type of things in a close proximity, hence they contact the COVID. But just because they're in a certain occupation, okay, let me just be frank. Okay, I'm speaking about the teachers. They don't want to go to work because they will contact COVID. But now, as I'm speaking to you, some of them, they're having a house party somewhere. So now they're trying to create an impression that, no, they're going to contact COVID at work. So that's why they're fighting that they don't want to go to work, but instead they want to earn while they're sitting at home. So now, the point that I'm trying to make is that most of the people, they actually contact COVID because of their social gathering. Sometimes it's not even at work, to say maybe we're exposed to COVID, because now if you were to compare a teacher and a nurse, like who's more likely to be exposed to COVID? I would say it's a nurse, because like you work with the people in a close proximity because you have to touch them. But as a teacher, you don't have to touch the learners. But now they don't want to go to work, citing such reasons. So at the very same time, I'll even say to them, if they don't want to go to work, why don't you cut their salaries and try to channel it to COVID-19? Maybe we can also, within the education, how about maybe we come up with other programs while they don't want to go to work, and we cut it up, maybe their salary by 50%, and we channel it to other things, supporting the COVID. And we also, because for me, it doesn't make sense. But holistically, I would say we don't want the hard lockdown, because it's going to affect a whole lot of people. I think it's Lelo or Nobuhle, the one who's owning the restaurant. I think she can actually tell you that it's a hassle to get that relief fund for restaurant. Even if you get it, it's not even adequate. It's not the money that you can even, the profit is not even the money that you can make per month or something like that. But most of the people have been complaining that they're in business, that that relief fund, it's nothing to what they're making monthly. So that will be my submission. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cassius. I think we can basically try conclude on the issue of the pandemic. And obviously, I think maybe one thing maybe all of us maybe have a consensus on is that this is not exactly an easy answer to say economy is important or life is important. It's a very complex thing which has to be balanced. And obviously, in some capacity, either one of the two will take a loss. And I think all of us can agree upon that, right? So I think now, let me move the discussion to more of a broader sense. Now, all of us are young Black people. None of us are above the age of 35. All of us have a sense of income in some capacity. And there's always been the issue about generational wealth, which has always been a concern, especially for me when I think about the fact I don't come from a rich family. My parents don't have a trust fund waiting for me when I want to access it or something. And I doubt any one of us have, unless there is someone who has, and there's no bias there. But the issue about money when it comes to Black people is obviously a concern. How we make money, how we sustain money. And I was looking at certain data about how we spend money, for example, and maybe I can start the question there, is that I saw a research that showed that currently right now in South Africa, our consumer debt is about 3 trillion rand, and that's a lot of money. That is relates to debt from loans, car repayments, basically debt in its entirety, clothing accounts, and so forth. And obviously, I think it's important for us to discuss what exactly is our relationship when it comes to debt and spending. because obviously there is some kind of a social and cultural aspect. When, for example, if you grow up poor and you get your first job, there is some expectation for you to fulfill certain responsibilities. But at the same time, you also want to fulfill your own personal capacity of enjoying your youth. You want to get yourself a car, move into a nice neighborhood, and so forth. I see Taboko has raised his hand, and I want to see what's your take on this.
No, I just wanted to say, don't be scared to say black tax, Baba. Don't be scared.
Okay. So black tax is definitely one of the aspects. So let me have Taboko. Actually, Brian is also, he's raised his hand or clapped. But let me have Taboko start with the topic. What's your relationship with black tax? Obviously, you are working, you're probably the first or second generation person earning a good income, or even just an income, basically. I'm not even sure if you're the first person to have a degree in your family or not. And there's certain expectations that are expected from you, from your community, but you also have your own personal desires that you want to do with your own income. So what is your take on the whole issue regarding black tax and your own personal financing of your own desires?
Yeah, okay. I actually wanted to firstly touch on what you mentioned around debt. And those numbers are actually increasing. I was also listening over the radio. They're speaking about consumer debt has been increasing in the past couple of months, especially from COVID. People are borrowing from families. People are borrowing from Abu Mashonisa, as well as the conventional banks. But what I wanted to mention there is, I think the issue also does stem from back in the day, and by back in the day I mean pre-democracy, because we were only limited to owning certain things as people of color, versus in the democratic South Africa, it's pretty much open. Therefore, if I know that my grandfather, my great grandfather, and my father never had a car or never even owned property, the only property that they own was via the government, which is an RDP. That's probably the one asset that you would have within the family. So if I'm going to be either the first one or the second one to get a job, I'm definitely going to buy a car, because, we never had that, So I'm just thinking of the mentality that also comes with the history that us people of color have also been through. But over the generations, and by that I mean us on this call, I think we have noticed that money should be used in a particular way to further not just only develop us, but those around us as well. So that's where I'm just going to leave it. I just wanted to touch on that. Maybe I know Bethwell, as a kind of, he said he's a politician in his personal capacity. Maybe he can also further expand on the whole history influencing today's decisions in terms of what we do when we get that first job.
But before Bertolt chips in, let me maybe have Lelo chip in on this first. Obviously, let's allow for everyone else to speak.
Yeah.
Lelo.
So my personal relationship with money is boring in a sense that I save and I invest, and I've got an RA. And I think I can attribute that to the traumas that I experienced with my mom specifically. Even my dad, they've always had somewhat an unhealthy relationship with money. I remember growing up, phone calls my mom used to get from your Foshinis and the Itkises. And it even used to be a joke, and we took it it was so lighthearted in the sense that we'd make a joke of it. Like, we'd know her phone is ringing and we'd know that debt collectors are calling for their money. And from that experience, I just remember promising myself that I never want to run from anyone because of money in my life. And I've always steered clear of debt. I currently don't have a car because I'm saving to buy one. trust and believe it will be secondhand. I paid off my student loans so fast. So my relationship with money, I think I can attribute a lot of the aspects to my experiences growing up and seeing how family members have treated money, and just making a decision that I don't want my life to go in the same direction. So boring in that sense.
Okay, that's well. Obviously, someone recommended you to speak. You're a politician, according to Tabo. So, comrade, please advise us.
Yeah, no, just to correct the war. I said I'm an activist, and I think Keshaz and yourself can attest to that. And many of times I don't want to be inclined to a certain political ideology and thinking. I prefer being an activist. Yeah, in my own right, that's what I said. But just to weigh in this discussion, first and foremost, I want to say I don't believe in the notion of black tax. I don't believe in that. And one thing that I have to point out is that in our society, and even if you can read any literature about money or finances, you read the books that were written by Robert Kiyosaki, and you can understand that financial literacy is something that is not there in our systems. You understand, from primary schooling, even with our families, even when you start to get a job, it's not there. Financial literacy. You experience this thing, and these things when you start to sink into depth. That's one thing that we need to look into. And there is so much social pressure. Sometimes it's not a black tax. There's so much social pressure that when you start to get your first job, you need to have a car. You understand? There is that unnecessary pressure. But let me narrow it to my personal experience. You spoke about the figures here, and also Tebo attested to that he was listening to a radio. I must say I'm one of those people who are in debt, highly in debt. I'm not ashamed about that one. And for the following reasons. And many times I used to say I grew up without a home. And first thing that I did when I started to work, I built a house for my parents. That is the major one, you understand? But now it's something that I told myself, a personal choice. Like Nobutre said, everything is about a choice that you take, you understand? I took a personal vow to say my children will never experience the same upbringing that I have experienced, you understand? That is a major one. And the second one is about financial, academic loans, you understand, age loans and everything. The sad reality about us as Black people is that when we get money, sometimes beside trying to live luxury and everything, it's not enough. And many people will tell you it will never be enough, you understand? Because there's high demand, but the supply is very little, you understand? I think the way the system it is, and as we are affected as Black people, the way the system it is hand to mouth, you understand? Hand to mouth. You look at these people also who are getting social security grants. The first thing that they get money, when they get money, they are in the shops, having something to eat and everything. So we have to sometimes be mindful of the history that we inherited as Black people. Sometimes it's not like we are reckless about money, but if I don't have a place to stay, That is a basic need. You understand? A shelter is a basic need, and you don't have that. And with the little that you have, like my sister says, she's not having a car, and a car we can debate now is a need as well. You understand? But you try to cover all these basic needs, but your salary cannot afford you to have such things in cash. You understand? So as Black people, we inherited a very painful and suffering way of living, and we are still suffering today. You understand? And as Black people, especially as young people, those are some of the things that we need to be mindful of, and they have to guide us. Not just because you have bought a car, I have to buy a car. You understand? Because our situations are not the same. Yeah, let me pause there, Peter.
Okay. Thank you, Bethel. Brian, you haven't spoken so far. Let's probably introduce you here. Obviously, first of all, just give us your name, where you're based, and what you do as a profession.
Good afternoon, guys. I'm Brian. So what I do is I'm an IT guy. I work at TFG for Shini head office. I'm based in Cape Town. So in terms of my profession, as I said, IT, but mainly like developing of websites and mobile applications. Now, just to add on to what everyone else said, in terms of what Lelo said, I do agree with you in terms of like not having debt and so on. That is actually like a good strategy to have, but sometimes you kind of like pushed in a circumstance which you don't actually account for. What I mean is, I can give you a situation what I had actually. So for the past couple of years, I've been using the train system to go home and go to work, right? Last year, while I was on the train, I was actually robbed. So they wanted to take my phone. So after a while, I was like, nah, you know what, no? This thing of almost being robbed and always being late for work is not going to be on, right? So rather than always having excuses to tell my boss, guys, sorry, I'm late and all that, I said, let me invest in a car. It wasn't only just for me as well. Because also last year, I recently got engaged. So I was also taking my fiancé to go and resize a ring. We also got mugged again, just trying to go somewhere. So Cape Town, as you can see, it's a bit unsafe. So you kind of get like forced into that situation of let me buy a car, which then gives you that bit of debt. So buying a car after saving, that is a good idea. But as Peter said, basically the issue that we have as Black people is sometimes it's not really generational wealth what we don't have. It's more like generational debt. Reason being is our parents or those before us didn't have certain items, right? So once we get to a certain position, we try and actually like provide for them, going like, okay, dude, you've helped me so much. You've provided for me shelter, schooling, food, and all that. Let me also provide for you. Sometimes it's hard for us as people to actually say, sorry, guys, but I can't really give you money now at this point in time. Can I maybe do this later on? Because currently I also have my own stuff that I have to also fulfill. So we're trying to fulfill our own type of goals and objectives, which then leads us to a bit more debt. Because now we're like, you know what, now? Let me like build a house for my mom. Cool, you're building it for your mom, but now you're a bit stressed out in terms of like finances and so on. Trying to also balance it in terms of what you want to have as well at your place. So that kind of like is a bit of an issue. I'd say like we probably can like break out of this thing of generational debt by actually trying to be a bit more smart in it. Like how you're saying in terms of saving wise. Even though it's like just 10 rands a month or something like that, just save something small. Then later on, when you obviously give it to your kids or their kids, right? It's obviously a bit more. It's going to take time, but it's better to take time than have it continue again and again and again. Keep on passing to the next generation, to the next generation. Again, just to add to one of the other points what you guys raised as well, in terms of like, if someone has a car, I also want to get a car. We cannot compete with each other. That's totally unrealistic. If someone has a car, good for them, they have a car. If you can get a second-hand car, that's also awesome. It's still a car. You don't have to get something fancy. You don't have to show off to anyone. Just be you. But problem what we have, I don't know if it's like a Black thing or not, because I would say also you can see like some colored people also do the same. We try and like impress others. So we'd either buy like fancy shoes, fancy vehicles, fancy gadgets and stuff. But if you actually look at your living conditions, it's absolutely ridiculous. You're like, dude, your house doesn't look right, but yet you have all these fancy items. So that's one of the issues what we have. We just have to try and break out of that mentality and see like, cool, guys, let's actually sit down, discuss like what can we actually save. Even if it's small, as I said, in the long run, it's going to benefit our future generation. Even though if it doesn't benefit us, at least try to make that sacrifice to actually help the next generation going forward. That's what I have to say for that topic.
Okay, let me have other people also chip in on the topic, obviously. And maybe let me extend it with another question. Obviously, as we speak about generational wealth, most of us here come from either disadvantaged backgrounds or middle-class families. You didn't inherit a house or something as you were getting into an adulthood or anything like that. My question is obviously, when you start, after you finish your degree, you start working, there's obviously the issue. I mean, when you start applying for jobs, obviously, there's the question about balancing between your career desires and income. So, for example, you see a job post, it's something you don't want to do, but the income is attractive. It's a field that you're not really interested in. You have other desires, whether it's your personal, you want to become an entrepreneur, you want to become a DJ or whatever. But then there's the issue of you need money. And I want to see what exactly is your view on the whole issue about, most of us are pressured to make that kind of compromise. Cassius, you raised your hand. What is your view so far?
No, Peter, I would say I think majority of us, particularly Black people, we do the things that we don't want to do because of the income. Because you will find that most of us, in your one salary, you can actually support more than 10 people. I'm speaking about your cousins, your uncles, and everyone else is actually depending on your salary, as opposed to other races, because like we normally have such discussions with my colleagues at work. They'll tell you, no, I'm white, so I don't have to support anyone. My salary is my salary. But when it comes to us, like you support a whole lot of people. So in the process, you end up doing the things that you want, the things that you don't want to do. I'll make an example of the occupation. I think in education, most of the people who study education, they will tell you, okay, Cheshas, I'm just studying education because I know afterwards the job security is there. I'm just going to work and be able to provide for other people. So I think it's a trend that has been going. So in the process, you end up being in debt because you have a lot of things. For instance, sometimes you start by building your parents' house, and after that, you have to build your own house. And after that, you have to maintain your own lifestyle and type of things. So sometimes that's why we find most of the people that are in debt. Some of the people, it's inevitable, but some of the people, they put themselves in debt because maybe because of the societal pressure, they want to fit in certain things, but you can actually see, but yeah, I will say most of the people, we support a whole lot of people, Peter. At some point I was not working and I will come to Peter, please give me 200. So in that process, you're also supporting your friends. It's not only your family. So hence I'm saying there is a little salary that you have to support a whole lot of people with it. Some of the people, they became smart with it. Some of the people, unfortunately, they cannot be smart with it. Hence they find themselves in debt and things like that. But some of the people, it's not like they want to see themselves in that situation, but unfortunately, that's why they see themselves. But like, I think it's Lelo who said he still has to pay he just finished paying the student loan and things like that. Some of us were still paying NSFAS, and after NSFAS, you still have to. So I would say, I think it was FNB last year. I'm not so sure. They conducted a study and they discovered that most of the people in this country actually on the 4th or the 5th, they don't have salaries anymore, especially those who are getting paid from the 20th, the 25th. And so, and again, I think in this country, there's no money because I think the average salary in this country is 12.5. Last time they conducted the study, I don't know about now. So you can see from that 12.5, if you have to support maybe, for instance, let's say you are in mid-range, you're in that 12.5, then you can just imagine how you're going to survive. So yeah, that will be my take. I just want to pause for that so that I can give other people the space to also articulate them. Yeah.
Namutle, you raised your hand.
Okay, so I think the first thing that we would need to look at is the fact that for most of Black kids, there's a lot of firsts that happen with our generation, right? things that didn't happen with the previous generation, our parents and our grandparents. And when I say first, I mean that you'll find that maybe you've never owned a house or a bedroom, you've never been in a car, there's some people who say they've never been to McDonald's, they've never gone to fast food. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of firsts. So you're battling between satisfying the first of childhood that you couldn't meet, and also living in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s trying to live a life that you're supposed to be living. Whereas a person who grew up having stuff, there's been a gradual experience as you grow. So you find that you grew up in a proper house, there was a bedroom, there was a shower, there was all these things, you have been taken to school. So there's a lot of things that you experience in your childhood. Whereas with us, the moment you graduate and you get a job, you're thinking, okay, I need to go back and experience everything that I did not experience in my childhood, and still also live the adult life that I desire. So there isn't enough money or time, even in our lifetime, unless if great success happens, which happens for some people. But the consensual way of doing things, we feel like there isn't enough time, enough resources to live our first and still live the adult life that we want to live. And I was having this discussion with somebody to say that even when we go into jobs, we get a lot of people, there's more people of our youth that are taking risks, that are doing things. But the moment you get into a job, Black people are able to suck up the nonsense that happens to them in corporate, because you're thinking about the amount of people that are depending on you. And even when it comes to entrepreneurship, and our white counterparts are a lot more easier at taking risks because they don't have any dependencies. Whereas with us, you're battling between reaching your dreams and taking the risks and still being able to feed other people and still able to house other people and still having other siblings that needs to go to school. I mean, with me, the experience was when I left varsity, I knew for sure I didn't want to be an employee. And I had to then explain it to my Black parents who took me to school wanting me to get a job so that I could feed the household. And it was such a war and a struggle for me to be able to be rebellious enough. And there isn't much of us who can say, I'm not going to do what they're saying, because you see the struggle, you see why they invested in an education. And it's so difficult to explain to a Black parent a dream that is too far-fetched from what they see. Because with our parents, the ultimate dream is that I look nice in a suit, I walk into an office, and I make a salary every month. They're not thinking about me saying, I would like to actually own the empire I'm going to work in. So there's just so many firsts, even with our generation. Yes, there are our counterparts whose parents were successful enough and they can take the risks and they can reach the sky, but there's still so many of us who still have to battle with that, who still have to struggle with the fact that I still need to go through my first, I still need to then live my adulthood. So we live an average life that's filled with debt because we're trying to satisfy both, I guess.
Thank you, Nobutle. Let me also try have others also participate before I move to the next topic. Maybe I have two more people join in on this topic. Then obviously we can move to the other aspect of the issue about money. I know Tabang and Daniel haven't spoken much since the COVID discussion. Let me start with Tabang, then we can end with Daniel. Tabang, in your capacity, obviously, when it comes to money, there's the issue about peer pressure, obviously. You went to varsity, you saw your friends, so you go to class and you see some of your friends are driving nice cars that even your own parents maybe can't even afford. You will start working, your colleagues also probably moving upper class or improving their lives. You're probably only starting off, you're at the beginning of the race and someone is probably finishing off. In terms of peer pressure, what is your experience when it comes to issues of money and, being a young person who's trying to grow his life in his own capacity? Does peer pressure affect you in any capacity?
Thanks, Peter. I think from my side, I was fortunate in a sense that I had sort of like as a young kid, I like speaking to like adults and learning from their mistakes and stuff. So from that, I was able to come across things like the Robert Kiyosaki book. I think Bethel mentioned it. So I read that book while I was at a young age, I think before I even started working. So that was sort of, it put me on a journey of financial literacy before I even had money. So that was a great deal for me. So with that said, peer pressure, like I never really experienced that because I generally don't give a shit. You know, like like I always try to make sure that I'm set, like my parents are happy, I'm happy, and I don't know, maybe it's because I never judged people by their accomplishments and related that to what I am. Like I always celebrated other people's successes and stuff. And I always knew that my time will come, and it definitely does come. So like peer pressure is never something that I really encountered because of that. And it also helps if your friends are not assholes about it. So I guess that's one of the big things that helps as well. And I wanted to add something about the relationship with money. So this is a topic that is really like personal from my side, based on the profession that I am in, because you tend to see people taking wrong financial decisions just to satisfy this fantasy, where else they cannot be able to deal with the repercussions of it. For example, the interest rates now have been low. People suddenly think like things are cheap, like buying cars, buying houses, and they don't understand that as soon as the economy recover, would you be able to afford that lifestyle if interest rates rise by 3% in 3 years' time? So that's something that you need to consider and make sure that you do understand what you're putting yourself into before you try to please people who are not even going to help you to pay all these things that you buy with the money that you don't even have. So also just to backtrack on the black tax, I think it helps when you make your parents aware of your expenses. So that will help them to be able to manage the expectations. As much as we are part of the sandwich generations, where you have to help your parents as well as help those who are coming after you, like your siblings or your kids, if you have kids, you need to make everyone aware so that it helps with managing expectations. And also wanted to add a part of savings. Guys, savings are important. Like, I think it needs to be something that you make sure that it becomes a habit. Like as soon as you get paid, you pay yourself first before you even look at your salary. So that makes you learn like to live on less. So like if you get paid 10,000, for example, and you save 2,000, in your mind, that's all you get. You get 8,000. You don't even think about that 2,000 that you've been saving because you always used to having less money. So even when you get promotions, you get increases, you make sure that you increase your savings space first. So like when times like these, like no one can plan for COVID. So when things like these, you know that no, like I will be a bit secured, even though like I will be afforded an opportunity to look for something else while I'm, say I got a salary cut or I lost my job. So that sort of puts you at an ease. So yeah, like that's my 2 cents, man. I just wanted to add that, and that's it.
Thanks, Tawa. Lastly, Daniel. Obviously, you haven't heard your view so far with the issue of black tax, career management when it comes to money, and most importantly, I don't know if you're the first generation or second or so forth. What's your take so far, just as we wrap this part of the discussion?
So I think from my point of view, I like to start on the black tax train. So basically when I was like still in varsity, my sister already started working. So what happened was like her husband was already well off because there's a bit of an age gap that they have. So he was able to buy her a car. And then when she started working, she managed to buy herself a car. And then they actually passed over that car to myself. So it actually helped me with in terms of traveling from home to school because my mom could not afford for me to go stay at race. So I think that there's like some sort of like I would not say social family responsibility as per se, but I think I would like to put it in a sense of the ones that are older must look out for the ones that are younger in a sense of a family tree type of vibe in terms of cousins that are struggling to, especially with university stuff, in terms of any sense that you can help them with could actually help them. But jumping onto the relationship with money, that's a totally different one. So I remember when I first bought my my car, right? So like I said, my sister actually borrowed me her car to use for a while. But now the problem came in with regards to the fact that she was controlling my movements with the car. So I could not go wherever I wanted to go. So I think that was some type of social pressure, because obviously people are posting, I'm at Rocco Mama's, I'm at where. So you want to go there. Now I can't go there. I can afford to go there because I'm not paying for the car, first of all. I have the spare money. So I can afford to go there, but I can't go there. So now I'm like, okay, let me just buy myself a car. And I think it overwhelmed my budget so bad to an extent, because first things first, when you go buy a car, right? There's so many things that like the salesman will not tell you up until you actually get the car, right? Because first things first, you buy a car, they show you the retail amount. Like, no, okay, I can afford this car because you check the estimated monthly repayment. You're like, I can afford to pay this car. And when you go and you say, okay, I actually want this car, they tell you we're going to add the tracker, we're going to add the service plan, we're going to add one, two. Now all of a sudden that retail jumps up 50,000. And you already dealt with it. It was like in your heart, like, I want this car. And you're like, okay, I'll take the car. After that, you still have to go pay insurance for that car. You still have to go pay petrol for that car. So now, like, your budget is literally went down. And now everything is your life has changed now, because now you don't have the spare money that you had before going in. So I think that for me was a great lesson. And I think after that, I started having a better relationship with my money. I started investing my money. I mean, and I think for me to get out of that down trail where I was like down and out, I created another debt, opened a credit card. But it actually helped me in a sense. But I think when I opened that credit card, I was actually smart about it. I did not go the same route as my friends, because I actually learned through my friends as well. So he had a credit card for like 50, 60,000, and then he maxed it out, right? And now he's still currently paying for that credit card and doesn't have a car anymore. So when I went into the credit card, I just had like a 10,000 credit, because I wanted it to be 10,000. I qualified for more, but I was like, keep it on 10,000. So I was actually using my credit card to actually get out of this nonsense that I actually put myself in. And now I actually closed the credit card. I was able to pay off my NSFAS loan. And I think I have a better relationship with money. And I think I'm getting into property now. And I have had enough savings to actually put down a down payment. So it's actually, so I think if you've not been in a place where you actually learned a lesson, rather use people around you as your lessons towards your financial relationship. Because some of your friends, them buying cars, them buying Golf 7s, them buying whatever, they will tell you their sad stories and be like, okay, dude, I'm paying 12,000 for this car. I can't afford it. And I can't afford to sell it because I need a car. And I can't afford to sell it because my social status is going to drop down and I'm going to be going from Golf 7 to a Polo. So I think we must just use what we have as lessons to have a proper relationship with money. I think for me, that taught me a major lesson, because I'm working towards paying the car off and keeping it for quite some time, because I'm now jumping into another debt of property and I want to close that off as well. So I think you must be able to make movements that will not financially strangle you in the long term, because you make decisions now that the interest rates, like Tabang mentioned, the interest rate is low. People are starting to buy cars and houses. So I think you must be able to have a long-term plan instead of a short-term impulsive buy plan.
Thanks, Daniel. I think we can at least move to more broader discussions about this issue of money. I mean, one of my mentors once told me about what he did when he was my age. He used to work for an insurance company, but as a salesman. But then he obviously moved to more of the banking side, and he was trying to get a promotion. So he worked his ass off probably like 3 months straight. He was recording what he was doing, how many sales he made, how productive he was with it every day for 3 months. Then his boss obviously recognized how productive he was and was like, hey, I want to give you a raise or a promotion. And then what he did, he made a presentation to his boss about how he measured each hour, how productive he was for his, and he works 5 days a week. So he was able to track how productive he is each week and then quantify that to rand value. And then he says that, look, instead of you giving me an increase, I've calculated that the way I'm productive within three, in a week period of productivity, 5 days, I can basically do all that work within 3 days, which equates to the rand value that you pay me right now. So instead of you giving me an increase in salary, what I'm going to suggest is that you pay me, I work for 3 days, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because that is what I've quantified as my rand value for what I'm earning right now. I maintain that rand value, but I only work for those 3 days because that's the rand value I'm actually contributing to this business. And then the rest of the 2 days, I can pursue my own personal capacity and a second income. And that was something he did. His boss agreed, and that's what he did. And then he works 3 days a week, and the other 2 days he's doing his own side hustles and so forth. So, I mean, there are ways I think some of us can navigate this whole thing. But in terms of money, because Daniel mentioned something about status, and that is obviously an important aspect when it comes to money, especially among young Black people. Obviously, Spiwa has just joined us, and maybe I can start the conversation with her. Obviously, first of all, before you speak, obviously just introduce yourself because you just joined, your name, what you do, and where you're based. But my question to you, when it comes to money, is it fair enough to say that money buys you respect as a young person? Because obviously money is a relevant issue when it comes to the way people perceive you, even the kind of friends you can attract, even relationships. And I'm going to move the discussion to that aspect. Does money earn you respect and also improve your circle around you in terms of your status? What's your take on that issue?
Hi guys, my name is Piwe. Yeah, I've been invited by Mr. Manda. And yeah, great conversation. Before I answer your question, like, wow, I'm having such an introspective moment right now because sometimes when things are not spoken about, you feel like you're the only one going through it and you carry the shame and you like people won't understand, or, you're trying to keep it to your own secret corner there. But when people talk, you're like, oh, I'm not the only one, and I'm having so many epiphanies right now to say, wow, okay, maybe I can endorse that, maybe I can use that, and you could try that. So thank you guys for opening up a lot. It's really helping. Especially as a black young adult who's adulting. So yeah, thank you guys. On my side, to what you're asking, it's a definite with caps and exclamation marks, yes. I don't know how I can overemphasize that because we've seen, and that's why we aspire to have money, because money buys you status, money buys you recognition, money buys you friends, money buys you so many things that when you have it, you become a magnet, And that's why we follow suit and we pursue all these things because of what money brings. So as a young person, yes, money does buy you respect. And we see some people, especially celebrities of our age, who, when you listen to some of the things they say, you can see that there's actually a whole shit of nothing between their ears, but because of their social status quo and because of their status and financially, people still respect them. They follow them, and stuff like that. And when we reduce it to one thing, it is money, So to answer you, yes, money does buy respect. Maybe to bring it a little bit more home, is when you look at most of look sebenza ekhaya, so nezwi. Because you have money, you now have a voice because you've got money. You can have a say in the house, what can be bought, what cannot be bought, and all of those things. But you look at your uncle who does not work, he gets to tolerate and get everything that is there because he doesn't have any money, even though he's older and stuff like that, but he doesn't have much of a say because of money. So yeah, to bring it a little bit back home, money does buy you respect. And you see even kids, when you're home, they run to you, but long as they shun from, and stuff like that. So even with the little ones, it's like a mindset thing that so you get to be acclimatized to such environments, and some people experience hostility in reverse, so yeah.
Thank you, Spear, for that. Maybe also ask Cassius. I know Daniel's raised his hand. Maybe start with Cassius and I'll go to Daniel. Cassius, obviously, as we've heard the question about money when it comes to status, the question comes in about social media. And, in South Africa, we talk about racism, we talk about sexism, and all other isms, but we never talk about classism. And you look at, for example, apps like Instagram, for example. There is a trend whereby by the mere ability of you appearing to have money or living a good life, that gives you more followers. It deems you as someone who's worthwhile, a good contributor to society. Do you think in that sense, social media then is a negative contribution to a society because it deems this importance of young people having income and being wealthy or perceived to be financially sound when they're not? What is your take on that?
No, actually, Peter, you are right. I will agree with you. It does. It does, I think there's this persuasive behavior. When the people, they see you from the social media and they see you as this kind of a person who has a lot of money. And unfortunately, some of our peers, they actually fall for that, because I'll make a practical example of me. There was a stage where I was not working, as I've said before. I'll post a pic. No one will likes it. I'll get 10 likes on Facebook and what. Then I started to work, and I did not even say, I'm now working, but I will just post a pic. Just a random pic. I'll get 100 likes. So, and inboxes for that matter. I'll also get inboxes for that matter. What are you doing? Where are you? Those type of things. So I think it does play an impact. That's why most of the people, they seek some kind of validation to say, okay, I've made it. I have to be on Facebook. I have to be on Instagram so that people can actually see me. But there is a certain percentage of people who go up having things. Most of the people who go up having things, they don't actually, they're not, some of them, they're not there because they've been having things. Some of us, we did not have things. So when we started to have this and that, now you have to show the world that I'm having this and that. It also go into the spending patterns, because now you have this, you will then buy, you seek a certain car that will actually gain you the status in the society to say, now I've made it. There are also people who are actually, I'll say they're forging, they're not there, but they're trying to be there, to just to show the society. I've seen a lot of things in my life that, like, wow. Like some of the people, they don't afford things, but for the sake of relevancy, they go for such things. Then ultimately, they end up being in debt. But for the social media, obviously, I have to have this type of a car so that I can post it on Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp so that people can actually see me. So it does play a certain role to that. So I do agree with you.
Daniel Butle, obviously it's the same topic, same question. Chip in freely.
Yeah, so I think there is a bit of a broken line between the way we live and our bank statement. I think we must try. There's no formula to say that we can give anybody, because we have different things that we want in our lives and all that. So we can't say this is how I handle my money. You used to handle your money the same way. But what I can tell you is that as a person, you must fall in love and have a personal relationship with your bank statement. Whenever you buy that 15 Rand airtime, there's already that one Rand 50 that the bank charges you that you don't check. And I think I remember I was me and my friend last year while we were still staying together. We went out, and then obviously you swipe when you're in the club. You swipe, right? And the following day, you check. Obviously, you get SMSs about what you bought in the club, and then you check. You're like, I can't believe I just spent 1,200 in one night. But when you were swiping, you did not, because you get to the where you guys laughing. So you get there to the counter and you're like, okay, how much is 12 of this? And they tell you, no, it's just 200 rand. So like, okay, no, it's not much. But how many 200 rands are you going to be swiping for that night that you were there? Because at the end of the day, you don't just go alone in the club. You go with friends. They come with their other friends. And then it's all about, dude, this month, I don't have enough money. Can you just sort me out? That's where the real bill literally grows to like 1,000 in just one night. And you literally just screwed up your entire budget for the month. But if you have a personal relationship with your finances, you sit down every single, probably once a week, with your finances in check, how much you spend. Simple things as Mr. D will actually kill your budget. So I think that my advice to everybody in terms of finances, have a personal relationship with your bank statement, because that reveals your true self. Because your bank statement tells you that you just bought 250 rand on Take a Lot or whatever, because it literally has every single thing. You can't hide it. It tells you what it is. So I think that's my advice to everybody. Have a personal relationship with your bank statement.
Okay, no butle. I won't lie, personally, each time I use my bank account to purchase something, I have this dislike for receiving SMSs. Like, I literally avoid opening the SMS because I don't want to see my balance again. It's a painful thing to do. But no butle.
Guys, I'm gonna be honest, right? I don't think females are as honest as they should be when it comes to this. But when it comes to respect and money, I don't think we feel the backlash the way guys do. There is sort of somewhere, somehow, we kind of feel it. I mean, I would say business-wise, yes. In the line of business that I'm in, people take you a lot more seriously when you drive something nicer and you dress a lot more. If you look the part, people think you know what you're doing, right? But on a social level, I don't think women look. I know that women will have 150 rands in their accounts and they'll be living large, like they've got tons of money. So there's quite a bit of a difference between, yes, when you're hustling, when you're out there, the type of people you wine and dine and you entertain. You need some sort of a bank balance. But even in business, I mean, I'm sorry for saying this, I know this shouldn't be how it goes, but this is true. I've seen it in business that the more of a pretty face you have, you'll have people open doors for you just so that they can look at you. So in reality, women don't face the same backlash in terms of status the way men would. So in a social stage, you've got people whining and dining you. In a business stage, you've got people that say, she looks good, let me just go and you'll have clients that actually, when you ask CEO, whatever, when you're a guy, I've seen this with my business partners because I'm the only female. When they go and dine clients, they would pay the bill, right? So my business partners will pay the bill. But if it's me, I'd actually have the client pay the bill. So then it's a lot less. To be honest with us, we don't feel, even in dating as well. I mean, you said we're going there, but a lot of the time we don't feel the backlash the way men do. Yes, there is here and there where you'll only dine with a certain level of females once you've reached a certain mark, but you don't really feel the pressure the way guys would.
Okay, well, that's a different take I didn't expect. Obviously, first of all, I want to see what exactly you haven't spoken for a while. And maybe this is not a space of activism, but in the space of money and obviously status, dating and so forth, even marriage and so forth. Because obviously, for example, if you want to get married, the issue of lobola comes into play. And that is also a financial burden on some people. In some cases, may not be. What's your take on that so far in terms of money when it comes to status, relationships, in that sense?
Yeah, I agree with Cassius and Nobuhle. I think their sentiments are on the same line. Cassius, when he was not working, he got 10 likes. And Nobuhle is, she's actually agreeing to that. Chief, congratulations on 100 likes now. Yeah, it's very sad. The way things are revolves around money, Peter. It's very sad. And if you are not rooted as a person, then you are in a serious trouble. Because if you don't have money, there are certain people will categorize you. You understand? If you are poor, people don't want to associate themselves with you because you can't, you don't buy Nikes or these labels and everything. That is sad reality. And coming to relationships, it's very sad, and I like Nobutle what she said. To be very frank, that many backlash is not faced by ladies, but us as men. But you know, I like the way you flow these topics. I've been listening, and I must say also I'm learning. It's a learning process. Hearing the views and everything from our friends here. To say COVID-19, I'm not going back, but I'm saying what I've learned is that COVID-19, that we are in debt. Those are turbulences of life. They are turbulences, and in those turbulences, there must be something that we are learning from those turbulences. That's what I have learned so far. And in terms of marriage and relationships, we have to pay lobola and everything. We need to communicate. Like my colleague once said, if you cannot afford this, you have to tell your parents to say, Mama, Daddy, I love to do this, but not at this point in time. And even in relationship, Lelo, if you are my fiance or my girlfriend, I'm just making an example, my sister. If I cannot afford 1, 2, 3, I have to explain to you. You have to understand, and we have to be transparent if we have to take this relationship that far to marriage and everything. Because other guys, let us be honest, will say you don't have money, this and that, but you are spending this money elsewhere. But in relationship, like what Mandla said about have a personal relationship with your bank statement, we need to be very frank and be transparent to say, I earn this much, I have this expenditure, and so forth and so forth. So one will understand, even when she goes home to advocate for you, when that time to pay lobola, she knows really to say, my boyfriend can afford this much. You understand? It is expected from you ladies also. When I come to take this relationship to that step, you need to advocate for me at your personal space with your family. I cannot come, then they demand 500,000. How? One now. Yeah? So you have to sit down with them. This guy is a social worker, the most underpaid profession ever. You understand? Yeah. Then when I come there, I think we need to communicate these things, Peter. And like as I said in the previous discussions, pre-marriage counseling, it's very important. If you're asking me about lobola and everything, it's very important. Deal with these underlying issues. You understand? Money on its own can be underlying issue. You understand? So that you see me here, like many of you didn't know that I'm indebted because I'm still building a house and so forth. You see me on social media, then you say, hey, this guy got money and so forth. You come in, you inbox me like Cassius, we are in a relationship. You find out this man is broke. You understand? Then we start to fight. Yeah. Let me pause there, Peter. I see everyone is laughing. Maybe I don't make sense.
What a dramatical ending. Wow. Lelo, so far, obviously, the discussion has shifted to issues of status and in terms of status in context of relationships and also when it comes to friendships. What is your experience in that regard? I mean, obviously, there's been the point raised that obviously men and women experience the issue of status differently. But I obviously want to see you as a woman exactly what is your experience? Because obviously it may differ from other people's as well.
So I completely agree with what Nobusha said. We are not under as much pressure as men are to provide financially. That's just what it is. Like, men play the ball, and it's expected for them to do so. And I think society is more understanding when it comes to women. But so for me personally, that has never been the case. I don't expect my boyfriend to have everything. That's just not where I am. I do know that societal standards and expectations, that's just what they dictate. And when it comes to money and status, it does play a huge role in where you are placed. And I think if for women it comes to this, because you have to people who have big fancy cars, and you have to people who dress nicely in fine clothing and all of that. And going back to what they're all saying with regards to, or not people, I think it was Cassius, with likes and followers and so on and so forth on social media. If you follow or if you see the likes of your Michelle and the likes of, I can't think of them from the top of my head, but people who have the most following are people who receive some form of financial stability and earn a lot of money, you have a lot of money, not necessarily earn it. So it does play a huge role in where we place you in society, male and female. Those are my 2 cents. Oh, I do have a question for Daniel. Just before we continue, I just want to ask Daniel. I'm kidding.
You have a question for him? Okay.
Do you have a question or you don't have a question?
I won't ask it here. I'll text. I'll use our chat functionality.
This is a safe space, guys. Ask a question.
Safe space.
Issues of inboxes. They are revealing themselves here.
But safe space. You can pop the question if you like. I was just kidding with the no comment about relationship, guys. I was just.
Well, if you say so, okay. But I know Nobutle and I know Brian hasn't spoken in a while as well as Tabang. Let's start with Brian, obviously. You live with your fiance. Finances, obviously. I don't know how you divide income or bills and so forth. Obviously, I always see this thing about, on social media not long ago, there was the term brand alignment, where it speaks about, the kind of people you attract as friends or people that, let's say you go out. You don't want to go out with certain type of people because maybe you think this person is it doesn't fit my image. I'm a working class person, and you want to take your unemployed friend to, I don't know, to Rocco Mamas and he's wearing some old shirts or something where he's dressed up, and you're going to a formal setting, and there's that whole issue of classism that exists in our society. Now, obviously, Brian, you live in Cape Town, you live with your woman. I want to understand what exactly is your experience in that regard with class and obviously splitting of money when it comes to sharing responsibilities, because that is another dynamic we don't speak about when it comes to relationships. Obviously, some people may believe as a man, I am responsible for the finances. That's my responsibility. In your relationship, how do you manage that as well?
That's going to be a hectic question to answer. Let me see what I can do. Okay. So let's say in terms of two types of relationship. The first one in terms of being your social relationships, right? I'm not prejudiced against like whatever person can afford or what type of person is, right? If you're, let's say, not that wealthy or you're wealthy, you're basically the same to me. They're just like based on how I was raised up at home. So basically, anyone who I see is basically the same as anyone else. I don't like judge you based on your financial status or so. So that's the first one in terms of that. Second one, in terms of relationship wise, like staying with my fiance, I would say that's more like a type of discussion what you two have to like have as a couple. So one, in terms of what my parents like taught me as well, usually it's supposed to be like a 50-50 type of thing. But as you said, in terms of like man and woman wise, we usually have this thing of like, as the man have to be a provider. Yes and no in a particular way. In terms of like, if you're actually talking about finances, you can actually go like, okay, cool. So I earn maybe a bit more than you. As such, let's say I pay about maybe 70% of the bills or whatever, or 60%, just to show that one, okay, as the man, you're also taking the lead as well, but also try and have that bit of fairness as well. Like she's also contributing to that relationship in terms of, let's say, electricity, food, and so on. So there's just that balance that you kind of have to have, but always have that discussion as well to see what you guys are both comfortable with. Don't always try and like maybe pressurize and say, okay, cool, as the man, I have to do this. You don't do anything like this. Rather just have an open discussion, dialogue, just say like, cool, I would like to like maybe pay about 60 to 70%. Are you okay with that? If she says, no, maybe pay a bit less, like 55% of the items, cool. As long as it's part of the agreements. So that's kind of like what we do at our side here. We do split up most of the bill. I'd say like for the car, for instance, I'm paying the finance for the car. She's just paying for the insurance. But we do split like the petrol like 50-50. But it also depends exactly like on that particular time in the month, right? Who has actually a bit more money. If I have a bit more money, I'll pay a bit more in terms of the petrol. If she does, then she'll pay a bit more. So yeah, it's always about a discussion in terms of relationship-wise when it has to do with your partner.
Okay, I know Whitley raised her hand. Obviously, I think she wants to chip in well on the topic. But maybe let me also add this question as well to the ongoing discussion. Obviously, there's the issue about money and status, and we speak as men that there's the discussion about whether as men are we intimidated by successful women or women who are in a particular industry. You see a woman driving a Mercedes Benz, and you're walking. Some guys may feel intimidated by that sense. You're an entrepreneur. To some capacity, obviously, there's the issue about, do men find you intimidating by the fact that you say you're an entrepreneur? Does that affect your ability to engage in certain relationships in some capacity?
It's funny because we had this conversation with somebody, and they were asking me if I date gold digging men, or if I've ever had an experience like that. And funny enough, I have just once, where somebody wanted me to buy them a car, but didn't. It's quite interesting. But the reason I raised my hand is that we often, it is good that you have the conversations with the person that you're in a relationship with, but we make the error of discussing now and never the future, right? So you might find that somebody is compatible with who you are now, but they're not compatible with where you're going tomorrow, or you're not compatible with what they want, right? So you'll find you've got a lady who's looking at you and saying, okay, fine. I mean, he drives okay, I hope nobody drives this. He drives a Taz, for example. And now, but I know that maybe he's going to work and maybe drive a Benz tomorrow. And you find that you're a guy who's really comfortable with your Taz until you're 50 years old. So you find that you get married and your woman becomes frustrated with you because they anticipated that you would grow in a certain direction, right? So vision compatibility is so important in that regard, especially when it comes to finances, to say, I know for one, I say to my partner all the time, I don't want to be average forever. So if we're saying we're going to be together for as long as we're going to be, if we're building, then let's make sure that we're building in the same direction. So you've got a person who's basically, you're able to sit down and say, okay, fine, this is our relationship with money. This is who chips in where. This is how we're building. This is where we're going. So men have have this issue of saying you want to build on your own and bring on the woman of your desires once you've built. So you always make that error, because then you meet somebody who's not compatible. And I always say, when I speak to especially the young guys in my church, or the young guys in the groups that I go to, that now the issue with that is that if anything were to ever happen to you, in the sense that you lose money, in the sense that anything happens to you, then you're stuck with a person who's there because of the money. And then you need to restart over, and they leave, and you go through depression and all of that. So it's always good to compare, or it's always good to say that, okay, this isn't the direction that we're going in. So I know we as women, look, if you find a guy that's got money, it would be great. You made it, but also, and I'm going to speak to the ladies as well, it's always good to condition yourself to get into a partnership knowing you're going to build, right? I think we need to do away. I was ranting on Facebook this whole week about Black love, and the reason I was ranting about it is that we're at a point, and for me, COVID has been a point of starting certain things over, where we need to start on a level of mutual benefit, where if you're in a relationship, we all putting in 100%, right? And everybody just benefits at the end of that. So we need to get into a mindset of growing each other, not one person puts in and the other takes out, because that's what relationships are in present day. And unfortunately, it's the guys that are pouring in and the ladies are just, whooping it up. It's all nice. It's been nice for a certain time, but if we're speaking about generational wealth, if we're speaking about growing as Black people, then the partnerships, even in relationships and the families and the order that we build, we need to start from a point where it's 100 and 100 from all sides. I think that's.
Okay. Bethel, I know you raised your hand. I'll also maybe get Spirit to also chip in. Then we go to the last topic. Then we can probably wrap it up after that. Bethel, I know you raised your hand. Bethel?
Sure, Peter. I'm here. I just want to be very, very brief. I just want to chip in and be very brief, especially to the gentlemen. I just want to give you an advice. When we talk about money and everything, we need to start to have a checklist as gentlemen. When you go to these ladies and approach them and fall in love with them, you need to have a checklist, because these ladies, together with their families, they do have a checklist. Let me be quick on the checklist. Ladies nowadays, when you go to their families asking for lobola, Peter, sending your uncles. After your uncles' negotiations, they sit with these ladies with a checklist to say, who is this Betuel? Is he driving? What kind of a job he's doing? He is educated. So she will answer, no, he's not. He does not have a car. He has a car. He's educated. That's what they do to see that we give away our daughter to a stable man. They set up a checklist. So we must do the same, guys. You must not take just a lady who does not have a vision. Nobody. You are attracted by their figures or whatsoever, but hey, many guys, they are in trouble because of that. Every skirt, you are following it. You need to have a checklist. We need to have a checklist, gents. You can't just take just anybody here. And yes, let me pause there, Peter.
Wow. I see your voice even raised in this particular discussion about this topic. Oh, I see it's very personal.
No, I'm getting passionate. Yeah, I'm getting very passionate. But I have to respect you have ladies here. Thank you, Peter.
Let me ask Spiwe, then we'll close with Daniel on this topic. Then we can go to our very last one. Spiwe, do you have any contributing words on the issue of relationships, money, even not just limited to romantic relationships, even just friends? Because obviously certain people, they have a fear or a perception that the kind of people I'm around must have an equal amount of finances as I have. You know, there was a whole issue about people going on trips as friends or girlfriend trips or even as guy trips. And if all of you are not financially unaligned, that creates the issue in planning such events. If you want to go to Cape Town as a group of friends, that becomes the issue. And that kind of ostracizes someone who's not financially equal to someone who's less financially stable. But I say it a lot. What is your take so far on the discussion, Spirit?
Yeah. This one hits home, hey? It hits home. I think because of my family background and value, black tax for me has been the most realest thing ever, you know? So my relationship with money is not that good, if I should say so myself. And in that case, in every single relationship, I just found myself taking care of people, and at most times it was, or it is, at my expense. You know, you find that I would go to debt for people. I don't like debt. I don't have personal debt, you know, but I've got debt that I'm carrying for other people, you know, type of thing, because my grandmother has instilled in me that where you can help, you should help, you know. But I've seen how much it has been of a detriment for me or to me, you know, type of thing, to a point whereby I suffered clinical depression early this year because I couldn't take it anymore. You know, it was just too much, you know, at work, everywhere, you know, and type of thing. And when it comes to personal relationships, you find that I'm the type of girl that, and it's only in my current relationship actually that norm has changed. You'll find that I'd pay, you know, for the entire meal, and you'd find that you go like for 2,000 rand on a meal for both of y'all, you know, that includes drinks and stuff like that. Ahoy petrol, I would, if you have any, even if you're like saying, you know what, I'm just low on cash and so couldn't help, I just some way, somehow in me try to help, you know. And this doesn't just go to my personal relationships, but expands to friends as well, into family. So you find that in this regard, I'm very, very not so savvy. But there's been a huge change, especially as I've mentioned with my current partner, who is very financially savvy and who works so hard. Sometimes I'm like, dude, just slow down, you know. And his relationship with money is on steroids, and that is teaching me slowly, one, to say no, and not no because I want to say no, but it's because I really need to start thinking for myself and type of thing, you know. And true, it's because I need to build a legacy, a wealth, an inheritance for those who are coming after me. So now I have to start thinking futuristic, you know, and making sure that I've got enough. One of the good things that I really pat myself on the shoulder for is that when I started working, I had a personal financial advisor, and unfortunately she's late now. But one thing she taught me, and she told me, never sacrifice on your life insurance and your life savings. Always pop something there. That and your pension fund you don't touch. So with that good habit, that part I'm really comfortable about, and I'm happy about that at my age. Some people are only starting now to save towards that, you know, and it's really difficult. We know, we see our parents, we see our aunts who can't retire because they don't have enough to retire for, you know, stuff like that. So to one of your guests' point is that we really need to have a really good relationship with our finances, but black tax and all these other factors, status, and, you know, us trying to make it in life and success and how we view things really does impede on some of those things. But we just need to keep pushing and keep trying. So on my side, yeah, I don't think I'm the best person to answer to this question, because personally, yeah, I'm still learning how to have a relationship with my finances. And with this whole COVID thing, things have been thrown off tangent, a lot of things had to be reconsidered, rethought, through and stuff like that. We are more home now than before. You find that there's the need for more food, so our budget has been like really changed, whereby at first you needed to think gas, you needed to think pocket money, but now you need to make sure that everybody in the household is eating, there's enough, type of things. And some people, some of their partners have been let go off at work and stuff like that, and our economy is not that good. So yeah, you're really challenged to think more strategically when it comes to your finances and stuff like that. So I'm on a journey, I'm learning. And yeah, some partners are really got sent, I guess. And to Nobutle's point, if you and your partner are building towards the same vision and purpose, it really kind of defeats the point. So even financially, you guys need to sit and have a financial vision. Whenever I speak with my partner about this, to say, babes, this is what I aspire for. And you find that our dreams are not far off at all, And to her point again, and just very valid, to say that guys have a tendency of patriarchy and it's inherited. So we don't blame them per se, whereby you want to start building on your own and you bring that lady along. But now times have changed, and sometimes you see that because you have more money, you want to call more shots in the house. It doesn't work like that anymore in this day and age. We have girls and women who are very learned, and who are very open-minded, so conversation, you find that actually gets us a long way and gets us better going than dictatorship, and being a domineering being in a relationship. So we more partners than anything else, as Manda as well said, to say that sometimes you just need to talk to your partner. Babes, I'm running low this month. Can you please help me out? There's no shame in that, but it just shows that I count on you more than anything. I don't have to go to my friends. I can count on you, and vice versa. And that for me makes the bond even more special, to say, oh gosh, I have a partner that I can rely on. I've got a husband or a wife or a girlfriend or boyfriend that I can rely on. So yeah, there's so much that we can learn and change with our generation, and I'm glad that these conversations are here to help us trigger that.
Thank you. Lastly, Daniel, on the topic, then I think we can quickly do the last topic or the question. But Daniel will just close off this part.
Yeah, I think
Daniel?
I'm just going to be very short and brief with what I'm going to say, because I think Spiwe and Nobusha literally just were on point with what I wanted to say, and I think just wanted to jump onto that and say, like, as guys, since we're giving advices, as guys, I think because of the family structure, the man is supposed to be the head of the house and all that. It will be very difficult for a woman who's financially literate to be educating a man who is financially illiterate. But I think for us as men, if we were financially literate, it would be much easier for us to pass down the knowledge to our spouses or our partners. So I think for us as men, we have it upon ourselves to educate ourselves about how to manage our finances, so that it's going to be much easier to have a proper relationship with a partner. Even if your partner, in terms of her finances, are literally dear magar, they are nowhere to be seen. It would be much easier for a man to actually push down the knowledge to the woman. But if the knowledge has to come from a woman to a man, it's like trying to hammer in a crooked nail. It will never go in. It will just swerve to the side and it will never stick. So I think it's up to us as men to educate ourselves for financially becoming free. Try to reach financial freedom, if that may be.
Okay, thanks, Daniel, for that. I think we've all almost reached an agreement in the sense of the importance of communicating when it comes to money, whether it's your family, your friends, or even your romantic relationships. Communication and also planning forward is very important. And maybe that brings to the last question about the future. And this is maybe not necessarily a case of whereby we have to discuss, but more, as young people, we've been speaking about what's going on right now financially and what's been happening historically. But as Black people, what does our future look like from a sense of money, financially? I want to see how everyone perceives where exactly do, as Black people in this country, if a young person was listening to this and that person is unemployed, has always been applying jobs and is stressed out, has given up, or the way the country is going, COVID-19, blah, 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 and hope is kind of down. Each of us here, we're in our different capacities. What is our take on the future? Especially in context of money. And let me start with Tabang. Obviously, you haven't spoken in a while. And then we can just go through everyone, and then from there we can just wrap things up. So Tabang, what's your take on the future so far? Tabang? I'm assuming is attending to biological issues. I'm assuming it's attending to biological issues with his body in the private room. Let's maybe move to Brian, and then we can move from there. What's your take on the future so far as Black people when it comes to money, young Black people especially? Brian?
Okay, so my view on that, I have met like some Black people who are a bit money savvy, so they do actually like invest their money in certain things and actually wait for it to grow before using it. But I've also met Black people who are not money savvy at all. So I can say like there's a 50% chance or 50-50 type of balance between how this might actually go. I have like one friend who I know from my old university who's particularly not money savvy as such. Just to give a bit of scenario, so this one time she actually got like fired, right? So she was busy looking for a job. But rather than like saving up on that money what she has in order to wait out whatever period she's going to wait for before she finds the next job, she decided that for every interview she's going to be going for, she has to buy a new outfit for it, which is expensive. Plus also, if you think about it, you're like, dude, you currently don't have any source of income. That doesn't make sense. So that was not being money savvy at all. Even though if you told like that doesn't make sense, you'd be like, no, but I have to look presentable and whatever to the people. Like, you don't really need to do that. But again, as I said, there's also people who I know who are actually really money savvy in terms of like two of my other friends. So basically the same age group as me, in the 20s as well, and they have property. So they actually invested, managed to buy property, and now obviously are reaping the benefits from that, showing that we actually do have a way of actually becoming more money savvy, but it just depends on our mindset. Like, how do we actually change our perception in terms of what we want to do with the money itself? Or are we able to actually be patient enough to actually wait for the money to grow to a point where we can say, okay, cool, now I can actually take it out, but not all of it. Just take out maybe a certain portion, leave the rest to still mature, or maybe add a bit more extra. So that's my view on that.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Let's have Brett Wall, and then I'll move to someone else. What's your take on the future for young Black people from economic sense? Is the future looking bright? Our current habits reflecting where we're going to be projecting? Do you see Black people growing financially? When I started working, there was the pressure of, moving into the big city. The pressure when someone tells you, where do you live? You want to say, I live in the north, I live in Four Ways, in Bryanston, Sandton, and you'd find people who even have the financial pressure of moving into high costly spaces, living a high costly life, purely out of feeling like you're inclusive in an environment that is already financially burdened, because you want to feel part of a society that's already in this habit of spending money. But as Black people in the future, where do you see us standing financially? Are we on the right course, or has COVID-19 ruined the whole thing? Are we going to be another African country that's just going through financial problems, wars and all those stuff? What's your take as an activist? Where are we going as Black people?
Peter, I think the future is bright, especially looking at the August panel that we have, mixture of different professionals or disciplines and ladies and gents. Having listened to their views, it shows that the future is very bright. You know, if we can stop competing to one another in our relationships and everything, because now there are a lot of issues in terms of relationships. Patriarchy, my sister spoke about that. There is too much patriarchy that we perpetuate. These are the root causes of what we see in the public domain, whereby men kills women and children. You understand? It revolves that. When you go deeper and do, we call a family tree, because sometimes when Betwell kill Palisa, we don't look at that. You have to go through, and when you see the family tree, some of the topics that we spoke about, money, patriarchy, and everything, those are the root causes of everything. So I'm saying the future is bright when we're able to sit down as young people, black, different disciplines, women and men, and speak frankly to one another. Then the future is very bright. We can see where the problems comes in. We can sponsor ourselves with ideas moving forward. So my last view, Peter, is that let's continue to be very frank and stop this unhealthy competition. Men and women, you understand? If I'm weak, I'm able to go to my sister. I simply spoke so beautifully about that, to say, my girlfriend, I don't have this, I cannot afford this. And when women earns more than us, it must not make us feel weak or so forth. We must take that as a good opportunity to build our home together, because it means that income comes into our family so that we can afford 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's stop this thing of competition and perpetuating matriarchy. Ladies, yes, patriarchy is there, but matriarchy cannot give us justice as well. Because what we see is that many women who are saying they are feminists and everything, they want to replace patriarchy with matriarchy. Both of them, they cannot do justice to all of us as Black people, as Africans. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Pepo. Tabang, I know I'd asked you earlier. I don't know if you had disappeared for a few minutes, but since you're back, I don't know if you heard the question about the future. Are you aware of the discussion so far? The issue was, the question or the last topic was about, where do you see us as Black people in the future when it comes to money? Are we on the right course? Are we on the wrong course? Is things doom and boom for us? What's your take so far?
Thanks, Peter. I don't know, man. I think we still have a lot of issues that we have to deal with, especially as Black men. We still have to deal with our demons before we get to looking towards an optimistic future. Like GBV, gender-based violence for one. It's something that we have to stand up and deal with it, because one thing that I thought of, since I started working, all the women who were my managers, they were brilliant at their jobs, and all of them happen to be Black. So now if we as men continue killing them because of our insecurities, abusing them and stuff, we are limiting the potential that we can get to experience in this country as a whole. So if we are able to deal with that, that's one of the things that we need to focus on. And besides that, in terms of financial matters, we need to get over this Abantu syndrome. Stay in your financial lane. Learn to have a healthy relationship with money. Even when you date, try to be as open as possible. And if you happen to find a partner, a woman who earns more than you, like you should learn to see that as a motivation, like, okay, probably she knows things that I do not know. It is a greater learning opportunity for me. So let me stay, let me see what I can learn from stuff instead of being, man, I must start, I don't know, sort of getting back your power by cheating or abusing it. Like, that doesn't work like that. Like, so I think it comes down to the point of having to deal with those uncomfortable truths about yourself that you don't want to deal with. And in generally, like, yeah, I think there is a lot of opportunities. I think the future, it is quite bright, considering that you are open to dealing with all the good and the bad. Like, learning as you go, man. Like, I think there is a potential for everything to be great. Like, not to sound too optimistic, but yeah, I think the future, it is quite bright. Just don't run away from your bullshit, if I can put it that way.
Lelo, what is your take? Is the future looking great? Are we the next America, or are we the next Uganda and some country that may be also financially not in the same sense as where South Africa is? Or what is your take financially? Where do we look as Black people in the future? If you had a child, what would you tell them? Is the future looking good, bad? Or do you just have to pretend like things are going to look good?
Well, we could do that, or I'm kidding. I think the future looks quite bright for the Black youth of South Africa financially. I mean, for the mere fact that we're able to have this conversation today, talking openly about finances and money, is a huge stride compared to our parents and grandparents. I think finances and salaries and how much you earn and what you do with it and how you spend it has always been a secret. And has always been, your cards close to your chest. Whereas today, I remember we had a conversation with Daniel at the office along with another friend of ours, and he was showing us tricks on Excel on how to calculate this and how you'll be able to pay off debt if you put this and this together. And he was showing us those types of things, and he was able to do that because we were open and honest about the debt that we have and how fast and how soon we want to pay it off. And I think it's through these conversations, open and honest, that we will be able to progress as a country, not even as a country, as young Black professionals in South Africa. I think we also need to normalize this and make this just a way of living. So continue having these conversations, not only with our peers and colleagues, but with our children and children's children as well. I know that that's not a conversation I had with my parents, but it's one that I want to have with my kids. We need to normalize speaking money and finances. They need to know that, listen, this is my tax bracket. I cannot afford that toy. Or this is how much you make, and this is how much that needs to go into savings. This is what assets are. This is what stocks are. And this is how you grow your money. Because I think previously, or now, we are taught to save, but we are not taught how to make money or passive income. We're not taught how to make a passive income, and we're not taught how you can multiply the money that you have. So it's basically just take what you have and put it somewhere until you need it. But the conversation needs to progress. It needs to be, how can I turn 10 Rand into 12 Rand? But yeah, I see it's not all doom and gloom. I think the future looks quite bright, just based on the fact that we are able to have these conversations and share knowledge. There are so many people you can follow online, people who are very well versed when it comes to money and investments. I don't know. You know what they say about the power of attraction? It's what you're interested in that sort of gravitates towards you. I think I may be in that realm at the moment. So a lot of the times, posts that come across on Twitter or Facebook are of people who are either giving advice, seeking advice, or talking about finances and investments and all of that jazz. So yeah, I mean, the power's in our hands. There's nothing that can stop us. We've got information at our fingertips. Your cell phone, there's so much you can get from a Google search. So yeah, that's my take on where South Africa is going with Black people financially.
Thank you, Lelo. Cassius, as Lelo was speaking there, I was thinking about how when I was in high school, my parents used to always refuse to buy me a phone, and I never understood because maybe like a month later they'd buy a brand new TV, and I'm like, these people are lying. These people, and I realized that our previous generation of parents were not really transparent when it came to money. And when I saw my parents buying a TV, but they refused to buy me a phone, in my mind I'm thinking maybe they have money that they don't want to share with me as their child. But then I actually realized that in some capacity there's debt involved, and parents don't even talk about that. They don't tell you, look, I can't afford this. Sometimes as a child I just thought maybe my parents just don't want to spoil me, or they don't want to treat me like other kids. But then as you grow up, you start to realize the importance of having certain discussions. But Cassius, what is your take on the future? I know recently you talked about, we always speak about, are the programs enough? Are the programs that are existing in our society promoting for a bright future? I know you spoke about the NYDA and you had like a serious take on that whole department about how it's not really empowering young people. But what is your take on the future?
No, the future, honestly speaking, I think for now it's a bit premature to say the future looks bright. For now, it doesn't look bright because most of the youth, of which they're the future of this country, they're still very much indebted, and the trend is still continuing. I know here we might be 12 or so, but there are our fellows out there who are still continuing with that type of behavior, impulse buying, and type of thing. For existence, like now, we have there's this glorified in this country, this narcissistic charlatan by the name of Vusi Tembakayo. Most of the people, for instance, they will follow Vusi, forgetting that he will say, okay, Vusi will say to the people that now I have started my poultry business using a feather. So most of the people they'll go and they will go and make loans so that they can be like Vusi Tembakayo. So that type of behavior is not going to end. But for now, like I said, I remain very much optimistic, but the future doesn't look quite for now because our spending patterns, even if maybe we can actually invite literature to assist us, you'll see that most of the people that are still in debt, particularly youth, because of maybe of the generational type of things. But yeah, for now, it's a bit premature to say that. And again, because of the COVID, it's going to take us some time. Like I said, just before COVID, we're already in a recession. And now, if the government is going to continue to close the operations of the businesses and economy, it simply means that we're going to be in depression. And I think most of us, we listened to the Minister of Treasury not so long ago. He had a midterm review type of a thing, and he did indicate that. So very much, I'll still say we are kind of like entangled. Yeah, we are very much entangled in debt. So honestly speaking, the future for now, it doesn't look bright. But in our midst, we do have the people who have knowledge and education, but for now, we are not there yet. Yeah, it's a bit premature to say maybe future, it looks bright for now, but maybe we might be in the right direction. Let me just put it in that way. We are in the right direction, but we are not there yet.
Okay, thanks, Cassius. At least you've brought a different view. At least I was hoping we're going to have it on a positive note, but obviously we have to also be all honest about our realities as well. So I do thank you for at least also bringing that other aspect as well. So at least we have a full picture of what's going on. Nobutle, let's just run through everyone else. But Nobutle, obviously, what is your take on the future? I mean, Cassius spoke about some of the people that we look up to on social media, and Vusi Tembakayo, I don't want to speak bad of him, although I have people I know who worked for him who have a very negative view of him. But there is people on social media, especially with the rise of people who are forex traders. You see people presenting a high thing of like, I used to eat bread for 2 years and nothing else, and now I'm a billionaire. You can be like me. let me teach you, pay $250 every month, and I'll make you someone as rich as me. And such figures and people, pastors, such prominent people, that's wealth, and that's why I spoke about. There's this thing where money somehow brings you status. A pastor who has a big church and dresses up and drives a nice car is deemed to be more leaning to God than a pastor who's poor, who preaches under a tree. And I want to see what's your take so far on the issue of our future, adding with the dynamic I just mentioned.
Your dynamic is quite interesting. But you know what? I think we need to start by being kinder to ourselves. The Black race has come such a long way. We're not where we used to be. I think that's point number one. Obviously, there's a lot that still needs work to be done on. But starting from that, we need to be kinder to ourselves. We're seeing so many Black kids, black young people doing such great things. I think for me, one of the most marveling thing right now is, even in this pandemic, you see Black youth, Black young people, Black young adults going out there and doing what they need to do to survive. I think that's very commendable. So you can see the fighting spirit. When it comes to getting the money, the sources of income, we're doing well. There's a spirit of hunger in each and every one of us. We just want to see ourselves progress. So on that point, I think we've sort of caught up in the desire to want to be more. What I think we need to work on then is the issue of sustainability. We need to start looking at how we can create wealth that surpasses us. We need to move away from hand-to-mouth techniques. We need to get to a point where, even though it may not happen in our lifetime, but when our kids take the baton, it must be a lot lighter. But I just want to say that we've done well. The future is bright. From where we come from, we really need to, just take a step back, look at ourselves, and just appreciate the strides and the steps that we've taken as young Black people. We are really doing well. Yes, there's a lot to be done, but for me, I think that's where I want us to sit and focus and say, we're running with this thing. Yes, we're making mistakes because most of us don't even have people to look at home. You know what I'm saying? So in terms of education, in terms of business success, it starts with us. And we're moving it on, and we're doing quite well, which is something that we need to be proud of. And another thing Simphiwe spoke about is that, speaking about the issue of Black men and Black women, there's no patriarchy does not work. It's about time that we start understanding that it's a collective thing. If we are going to do anything or build anything for the Black society, it's Black men and Black women coming together. We're not against each other. And I think the mentality right now is that, Black men win over Black women win over Black men. And that's not it. We've suffered the same harshness from slavery, from the past. So we're basically fighting the same battles as a race. So we shouldn't be fighting against each other, So those are the things that I would say need to be fixed. But we need to work on sustainability, and we need to work we need to focus on working as a unit. But more than that, we really are doing well.
Thank you. And Daniel, and then we can end with Spirit. Our future, good, bad, doomed, heavenly, sad, happy.
I think we're in the right direction. We're not close, but we are going in the right direction. I mean, to point out what Thabang said with regards to Abantu Bazotini, I think that 2 points to bring us to a point where most people fear that they need to uplift their social status. And I think that's something that's a bit of an issue. And I want to say what Cassius was talking, I think it was Cassius or Bethriel were talking about debt. I think debt is technically not a problem, because in accounting terms, they identify debt as good debt and bad debt. So I think as on your own personal capacity, you just need to understand whether the debt that you're getting into, is it a good debt or is it a bad debt? And look in the long-term run, how things gonna benefit you. I mean, if you look at your balance sheet, I mean, if you're losing more than gaining, and I think you know what's the the future going to look like in terms of the long term. But I think the main problem is a timeline. Like we try to live up to other people's timelines, right? Identify your own timeline. I never thought these two words would go together, but patience and persistence, they actually go well together. Because if you think about it, if you want to build a table, let's say a coffee table, you need to plant the tree. But if you don't water that tree every single day, and you know a tree takes like around about like a few years before it fully grows to a point where you can actually chop it down and make a table. So what you need to do is every single day, persistently, go and water that tree every single day if you have to. And then in the end, you'll have your own table that you're going to make. So patience, wait for the tree to fully grow. Don't chop it before it actually reaches maturity. Be persistent in terms of what you push forward for the future, because you have a long-term plan of what you want to achieve, which is a table. Then you know for a fact that you need to be persistent and you need to be patient up until a point where your stuff comes together. So I think we need to be able to understand that timelines are not the same for everybody. I mean, for just to bring it home, when I got to university, my high school marks were not that good. I mean, and some of my peers, they went into university, they started doing their first year, and they only had like 3 years and already working. I had 4 years because my marks were not good, so I had an extended program, so it was 4 years. And they went on, they started working immediately after the undergraduate. I went on to do my honors. But I can tell you right now, we're probably on the same pedestal in terms of finances, in terms of salaries. But I waited my turn. I did not try and rush getting an income or quit school or listen to these Forex guys, because I know a lot of people drop out of school to run after these Forex people that are selling them dreams. But that's because they're not patient enough to understand that you need to be able to look at the long term. Are you willing to Forex for the rest of your life? Is that what you want to do? You want to Forex for the rest of your life, or you want to Forex to get a capital and start your own company? So some people, they need to understand what their future plans are and try to stick to them. Be patient enough and also be persistent enough to be able to reach that goal. So I think that's my conclusion for now.
Thanks, Daniel. Then lastly, Spiwe, maybe you can have the closing words before I wrap it up. What's your take on the future? A mouthful has been said. What's your take?
Yeah, indeed, a mouthful has been said, but I like the transition from Daniel because he took on some of the words that I just had in mind when you first asked the question. There's so many things that need to be broken, and a few have been mentioned: patriarchy, matriarchy, apartheid, and to Lelo's point as well. We just and Nobutle's point, we just need to appreciate where we've come, and give ourselves a pat on the shoulder, because when we don't celebrate these small victories, we tend to get tired and fatigued and don't realize that actually we've contributed much. To some of your guests' point as well, still a long way to go, but looking at where we are right now, we're pointing to the right direction. So on my side, one thing that I think we need to break most is this instant gratification. Is just to sum up what Daniel has said, we want to put things in the microwave, 2-minute noodles done, we eat, we're satisfied, but good meals take time, nutritious meals take time, to grow. So we need to have, to Daniel's point, that persistency, that patience, and we need to engrave it as well in those coming after us, because
Spiwe? I think you're muted or got disconnected.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it is. So just to quickly wrap that up, I think we just need to engrave it in those coming after us as well, to say that, guys, have patience, and patience yields great results. we've seen, to Daniel's point, with instant gratifications comes instant sorrow. So if we are patient enough to actually see things mature, come to maturity, I'm one of those. And my sister, I've seen that with her. My parents, especially my mom, would want to buy her everything because they felt bad that they didn't have things. So whenever Mama, I want this, Mama, I want this, because of the pain that they endured for lacking, they want to uvala leso silonda leso, but it's not working. Instead, it's creating a culture and a norm in us, in a pattern that is not supposed to be there. Good thing I was raised by my grandmother. There's a shame. Even if my parents would come with money and leave it with her, she'd be like, uzoyithola ngeyi-15 mangihola nam guthi nawe type of thing. So such things, when you are growing up, you're like, yes, it's local gangs on that, but now as you're older, you kind of get to appreciate it, to say, wow, thank you, you actually taught me great values, to say some and the nice thing is that she would actually put in more than what my parents had left for me, just for the mere fact that I waited. And when I translate that now, I can easily let go of 6,000 Rand into investment, and I don't earn much, but because the practice has been engraved in me so that I don't get instant gratification, and I've seen that translating even in our relationships. We want our partners to catch up with us or to be knowledgeable about this. If they're not, you move on to the next person. No, for you to enjoy the fruit of what you want, you need to see and have that patience, to Daniel's point, to see it grow, plant that seed, nurture it, and this doesn't just go in money, it goes in every single aspect of our lives, in our careers, in our families, all of those. So yeah, those are my closing remarks. The future is good. And I think if we have these conversations with those coming after us, I just so wish, I'm so tempted to sharing this link with so many youngsters, just to come and hear the wisdom that is in this table. I am mesmerized. I am blessed beyond measure. And thank you guys once again. So yeah, thanks, Manda.
Thanks, everyone. I think anyone who says they left today without learning a single thing or understanding how different people think would honestly be lying. And I'm not trying to impose a thought, but honestly, this has been a great discussion. Over the past few weeks, we've been talking about different topics, from GBV to consent, to money, to career management. We've had lawyers, we've had people, entrepreneurs, we've had people who are starting businesses, people who are working in different fields. And that's the importance of having these kind of discussions, because you extend the issues to people who are different from you and see how we think. And from what I can see is that amongst us, even though all of us may not be on the perfect track, amongst us, the future does look bright. And I think that's something we must, as Nobutle says, we must actually appreciate that people like us in this group are people who can contribute to a bright future. And we must celebrate that kind of people in our space. I just want to mention some people who have asked to be apologized for not attending. Asanda, Mongezi, Matlazi, and Nyasha, and Pakiso, and Portia were supposed to join us today, but some due to load shedding and some due to other commitments couldn't join. But again, we always have discussions probably on a weekly basis. So there will be more discussions with other topics. But thank you for everyone who joined. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything before we leave. But thank you guys. Okay. I think, Precious, did you raise that? Or is that from? Okay.
Oh yes, I think my closing remarks will be on a COVID. I think most of the people, now they were taking it, they were not believing it's happening. I've seen a lot of people not adhering to lockdown regulations. I've seen a lot of people gathering in groups, drinking. I've seen a lot of people playing soccer. So I think my message is quite simple, to say, please, let's stay at home and enjoy our beverages. And whenever you get an opportunity when they open, please buy in bulks like me, so that you can actually stay at home and enjoy and adhere to the lockdown regulations. But most of the people, they don't actually adhere to lockdown regulations. And when they go to the occupation, they always complain to say, no, we got COVID from work. Most of the people, I can tell you, they don't got COVID from work. Some they gather in their social gatherings, they make house parties, they make pies, and that's where they contact COVID. But they always complain to the employer to say, no, we always got COVID. So my message is quite simple to say, let's stay at home, enjoy our beverages, and let's try to minimize interaction as much as we can. Be like me, buy in bulks, stay at home, drink alone. Amen. But previously, I didn't hear the president talking about compromise, but it's fine. It's another day.
Oh, Cash as well. Yeah, thanks, Cassius. I think I agree in that sense. Let's stay safe. I don't want to have a case where I know someone who's died from COVID-19, and I'm lucky in a sense I don't know anyone personally who's died from COVID-19. So I want to maintain that sense. I mean, if you look at some of the videos what's going on in the public hospitals, it's quite concerning, and I don't want to see my parents or anyone I know in that kind of space. But yeah, thanks guys for joining us. We will have more discussions, and I will invite you if you're available. Yeah, but thanks guys, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Peace out, man. Nice to see everybody.
Yes,
Cheers, guys. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.